Thank you all so much, members of the task force, for coming here to our town and for taking the time to listen. My name is Brad Greene. As a father and a Sandy Hook resident, I am making a statement today representing March for Change, a program of Connecticut against gun violence. The people you see standing with me represent just a fraction of those who have mobilized around the demand for common sense gun laws and who support meaningful change following the shootings at the Sandy Hook Elementary School. The heartbreak and the sadness we all feel when we see the pictures and hear the stories of the 26 killed is deeply personal. But our resolve to change laws which permit the proliferation of obscene levels of firepower and leave our families and communities unsafe is collective and has united us. Many of those who have mobilized were not involved in the issue of gun legislation prior to December 14th. Unfortunately, the events in Sandy Hook provided an unwelcomed education, and we have come away appalled by what our laws allow. We are incredulous at the types of assault and semi-automatic weapons and magazine clips that are considered legal. The logic behind allowing anyone with a wad of cash to buy an arsenal without a background check is beyond our comprehension. We want to be clear that we support the Second Amendment. However, even one of our most conservative Supreme Court justices has declared that the right to bear arms is not unlimited and not without restriction. What we stand here demanding today and will march in support of on February 14th are common sense changes to our gun laws to make our families, schools, theaters, malls, and communities safer places. What does common sense look like? No one with a legitimate purpose needs a military-style assault or semi-automatic weapon or large-capacity magazine. We support their ban and removal from our state. No one with a legitimate purpose should fear permits and universal background checks on all gun sales and transfers. Responsible gun owners should have no issue with registration and storage requirements for guns or limits on the number of guns which can be purchased within a month. We support the immediate enactment of these measures. The world changed on December 14th, and we are looking to the elected officials of our state to lead not just this state, but the nation. As always, there is a choice. You can cower in fear from the gun rights organizations who are determined to preserve the status quo and protect the gun industry, or you can look into the faces of those standing around me and the thousands more like them in your constituencies. You can recognize that we are growing in numbers and our voices are growing in strength. And you can do what is right and demonstrate the courage that it takes to choose common sense. And we trust that you will choose common sense. Thank you for listening.
My name is Kate Mayer, and I live here in Newtown and have on and off for the past 20 years. Like so many others, this is where we chose to raise our family because here in Newtown, the village really does raise the child. And now there's 20 less to watch grow up. And that should never have happened, not here, not anywhere. There's no way the right to a weapon of mass destruction in the hands of an unvetted gunman outweighs the right of a 6-year-old to turn 7. The right of a family to put kids on the bus in the morning and fully expect those kids to return at the end of the day. The right of a teacher to teach and not become a combatant on the front line of unimaginable violence. I am sad here in Newtown, trying to console my teenagers who taught these kids to swim, to console my husband who coached the siblings of the dead kids, and to smile and encourage my friends who work in the schools that it's all going to be all right, because I'm not sure it is. I'm not confident the power of you, the decision makers, will prevail and not succumb to the power of the lobbyists and the right to arms advocates who think the right to bear arms and protect themselves in case of attack is more prevalent than the actual attack afflicting so many of our citizens, our family, our friends, our world, and my town. I firmly believe if the anti-gun violence supporters attended just one of the funerals that I did, if they stood in line for hours upon hours and watched the heartbreak leave the funeral homes and churches and synagogues one by one, all ages, all sizes, they would realize that the Daniels and the James and the Jessicas and the Jessies and the 16 others of the tiniest victims and their educators who tried so hard to protect them and the first responders who are now forever broken, they would know that there is no inherent right that trumps that tragedy. This is not legislation on paper. This is not an abstract, difficult to grasp, multidimensional concept. Assault weapons were made to assault, and they did that right here in my town. Only you have the power to make a difference, and I sadly do not. I'm demanding more than this FaceTime, more than a ribbon, a t-shirt, more than making the promise. I'm demanding you keep the Sandy Hook promise. We live together, the gun supporters and those of us who do not. We have a better chance of actually living if the common sense gun laws are enacted so that responsible gun owners can remain responsible and the rest of us can remain alive.
I'm Michelle Koo. I'm a parent of 3 children in the Newtown Public Schools. And I find it hard to understand why it is important to preserve people's right to own weapons designed for the military and now marketed as fun to shoot. This preservation of rights is especially egregious when it threatens my children's right to live. In addition to being a parent, I also have had a career in environmental health science. So while I have a personal perspective on gun control issues, I also see the issues from a risk assessment standpoint. The EPA, the FDA, the CDC, the World Health Organization, OSHA, NIOSH, all use risk-benefit analysis to understand how important it is to address threats to human health, whether the hazard is a virus, a bacterium, a new drug, radiation exposure, or chemical exposure. Why can't we address guns in the same way? There are almost 31,000 gun deaths every year, about the same number of deaths due to hypertensive heart disease or automobile accidents. There are major campaigns to prevent heart disease, and billions are spent each year to make cars, roads, and driving safer. Yet the gun industry remains relatively untouched by improved safety measures, depending largely on responsible gun ownership. Additionally, many of the people who die from gun deaths have very little choice about their risk exposure, unlike hypertension and automobiles. But the incredibly good news is that the vast contrast between the gun deaths in the US and other developed countries should give us some pretty good clues as to how to curb gun deaths. Cut back on the numbers and the types of guns and ammunition that are available. This can be done while still maintaining the Second Amendment rights. Finally, I cannot appreciate the concept that there are good guys and bad guys. We're all human, and we are each capable of doing things, both good and bad, intelligent and stupid. We have mental health issues that need to be addressed, and I think that's something that we can all agree that need to be taken care of. I don't doubt that most gun owners are responsible, but I also know that there are those who intend to be responsible but make mistakes and bad decisions. From a purely statistical point of view, the more guns and the more powerful they are, the more likely there are to be accidents and bad decisions. The cost of those mistakes and bad decisions are human lives. Thank you.